So I'm showing just 9 o'clock here, so we'll go ahead and we'll call this workshop advertised meeting into session. And so what we'll do, of course, is we'll go through the agenda, colleagues and superintendent, and I see you have staff here, and I know we have some guests here. And folks, as we come to each item on the business agenda, if you have anything, please just stop me, and then we'll take care of all that. All right, so of course, the first item of business will be called to order. Second will be approval of the agenda and agenda changes. And we do have a change for this evening. Recognitions added, item 3.4, recognition of Roderick Cabrera, 2024 199-pound weightlifting traditional division Florida High School Athletic Association state champion. Added item 3.5, recognition of Ty Roundisville, 2024 2A 154-pound weightlifting Olympic division, Florida High School Athletic Association state champion. So those will be changes that we'll have this evening. Then we go to section 3, recognitions, and in 3.1 today, workshop, recognition of Fort Walton Beach Women's Club, presented by Superintendent Chambers. Superintendent.
Thank you, Dr. White. And I think for this one, I'm going to first turn it over to Mrs. Ivanchek, and then I'll have a few comments after that.
Okay.
Thank you, Superintendent and Board. I appreciate you allowing us to have this recognition this morning of the Fort Walton Beach Women's Club. If you'll let me just take a minute, first I want to say I'm actually a proud member of this Women's Club and very proud of the things that they do. The Women's Club in Fort Walton Beach was actually started in 1921, and it was just a few months after women received the right to vote that this club was started by a name you'll know, Miss Liza Jackson. And it has been in continuous operation since that time, and come next month, we'll begin our 104th year of consecutive service to our community. The club has actually had a long-term relationship with Okaloosa Schools. The Women's Club was the first group to start a free milk and lunch program back at the Camp Walton Schoolhouse. It was also the women that basically started law enforcement in the city of Fort Walton, which of course then was a town called Camp Walton, wasn't even Fort Walton yet, because they hired the first constable whose main function was to keep livestock away from underneath the Camp Walton Schoolhouse because it was causing a real unsanitary problem with the students having all the fleas and all that. So they decided they would pay to hire this constable to handle that. When Fort Walton School, which is on Lowry Place, which is something our district has had for many, many years and we've just sold, when it was built and operating, of course at that time was very, very modern school, they were trying to get state accreditation, but they were being denied because there weren't enough books in the library to meet the state criteria. So once again, the Fort Walton Beach Women's Club found the funds to get those books into that school and get it accredited, because already the Fort Walton Beach Women's Club had already started the library in the city. So over the years, the club has continued to support our students with scholarships. Each year, they give 2 scholarships to young women coming out of the high schools in Fort Walton Beach. They've worked with the kids' voting program. There's a program that's been on for several years, since 2018, called S3, and that works with our Title I schools, 10 of them in the south end of the county, to make sure that these students get whatever they need to be safe, secure, and successful. And over the 5 years of the program, the club has donated over $10,000 in cash and gift cards and $15,000 in clothing. So talking about the program you're recognizing the club for today, what first happened is in the fall of 2021, the Okaloosa County Commission for the Status of Women, which falls under the Okaloosa County Commission, had a summit where they had law enforcement and others talk about the vulnerability of Okaloosa County for human trafficking incidents, with having the I-10 corridor to the north and the boat traffic to the south. It puts us in a vulnerable situation. And they also mentioned that the most vulnerable are young people from the ages of 12 to 18. From that, Mitzi Henley, who was the chairwoman of that meeting and program, asked me would I take an initiative and talk with Mr. Chambers and this board about supporting education information about human trafficking within the school district. So I got with Mr. Chambers, and he graciously agreed. And board members, I presented this proclamation to you back in February of 2022, and you graciously approved that, saying that we would support education initiatives against human trafficking. From that, the Women's Club, under the leadership of Sissy Weiniger, who's here today, began looking at ways that we could get the information out. And through her work, she contacted Mr. McGinnis, the superintendent, and Mr. Horton to try and find a way that we could get a program out called the Sticker Program. And working with the Florida Alliance to End Human Trafficking, we've put these, taken these stickers, we paid to get them printed and so forth, and organized the program to get these in the bathroom stall doors of every middle and high school in Okaloosa County schools. That's throughout the district. So we've spent the last year working on this project and got student leaders involved, and that's where we are today. This has happened, and we believe, of course, it's hard to have any true statistics about this, but we do believe the education that we've gotten out and the awareness is going to help prevent some incidents from happening. Along the way, we trained all our members through a state program, so they're aware of how to recognize situations that might lead to human trafficking. So again, Mr. Chambers, I appreciate you allowing us to recognize these women today. We think this program is great, and of course, it's wonderful to be doing something that helps our students. So thank you, sir.
No, thank you, Ms. Ivanchek, and thank you to the Fort Walton Beach Women's Club. You think about 104 years for an organization to be together. I mean, none of you were there, no, absolutely. But that's, to me, that's pretty amazing. And you heard some of the highlights that Mrs. Ivanchek mentioned in terms of ways that you've supported the students in the school district. And just to re-highlight a few, scholarships, making opportunities for students. You look at voting programs, donating to schools, and I know that the list goes on and on. But then you get to the human trafficking. I can remember, like it was yesterday, some of the stats that were presented, and where folks don't necessarily realize along the I-10 corridor what happens with human trafficking in this area. And I remember the age limit that we were talking about, where students at a young age are being targeted. And so something like this, I think, is very important. I can remember being over at Pryor Middle School, and we had a presentation, and then we went into those bathrooms, and we started putting those stickers there. And of course, now here we are today. And sometimes you have programs that start, and they don't necessarily always continue. And you all have made sure that this continues, and it's something that we are extremely grateful for. So we do have just a little something that we want to present, but do we want to do that first, or does anyone from the group also want to say anything?
Well, I'd like to have Ms. Weiniger come up, because first of all, Ms. Weiniger, as many of you know, is a former educator in our district. She was a teacher and an administrator, and she really was the driving force behind this project. So she might want to mention a couple of things. Ms. Weiniger, if you want to come up.
Thank you so much, Superintendent Chambers and Linda, for pushing this on through. And Mr. McGinnis, we started off, Steve Horton and Jeff and I sat down, tried to come up with a way that we could put a little sticker in the restroom. At that time, it was just, we didn't have it wasn't coming from the state. But anyway, thank you so much for this recognition. And by the way, when you're talking about shooting pigs and things under the house, I have a picture of my great aunt, who also was on the beginning of the Women's Club way back then, but she was shooting the pigs to keep them out from under the house. Thank you for this recognition.
Absolutely.
I also want to say, Mr. Superintendent, that we are in a state organization of women's clubs throughout the state of Florida, and when we first started kind of publicizing what we were doing, suddenly everybody wanted us to pretty much hand over what we had done to them, and then we kind of stepped back. And one of the things they were most amazed about is that we were able to cooperate with our school board and school district, because many of them said, no way that would happen in our county. They would not listen to us, they wouldn't work with us. Again, thanks to you and this board and our school district, that's not the way we do things in Okaloosa. We want to get all the support we can get to help our students. So that was another great thing about our project.
Oh, fantastic.
Thanks again. Thank you so much.
Don't go too far. Come on down. As Mrs. Vancheck comes forward, we do have just a small token of our appreciation, but I want to wait for her to come on down.
Thank you.
How about all the ladies coming up? We're gonna get a picture. If y'all wanna go ahead and start coming up, and I'll give this to you, and we'll get a picture, and,
It might be good if you all would kind of come down, be part of the picture.
yeah, that'd be great.
You want me to crouch a little?
Some folks over on this side.
Nope, you gotta go on that side. Come over here. Over two. And you go over here. Yeah. Any more? We good? I really don't want to stand up. Sure. That's okay. It's okay.
All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay. 2 more.
Look pretty good for 104. Oh, well preserved.
2, 3.
One more.
All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We know what Carlisle said.
I will.
All right, thank you, Superintendent and Ms. Vancheck. We'll go ahead now and move to item 3.2, Children in Crisis Change for Children campaign, presented by Ms. Kitty Johnson, member of the Board of Directors, Children in Crisis. Ms. Johnson?
I
think that'll be
that's
for tonight.
Be later on this evening, all right?
I think all the remaining ones will be for
Okay,
tonight.
all right, so we only had the one for the workshop.
Right.
All right, 3.3, recognition of Brennan Giddings, 2024 3A 154-pound weightlifting Olympic champion, Florida High School Athletic Association, state champion, presented by Superintendent Chambers. 3.4 and 3.5, we already spoke about as changes to the agenda. Section 4, administrative.
Dr. White,
Yes, sir.
If I could, real quick,
Yeah.
with these recognitions,
Uh-huh.
we have some outstanding weightlifting programs within our district. This is unprecedented how many we've recognized this year. So a shout out to all of the schools that have really accomplished a lot in the weightlifting. I know we have 2 schools here tonight, but we just did Baker not too long ago. So congratulations to all these weightlifting teams. We got some strong students out there, some strong athletes.
Absolutely, and I do want to also say to the board, as you know, we have a number of other individuals and teams that have won state. From track is another one, and we'll try to get them here, but some may not be available in the June timeframe. But we're still sending the certificates to them with a little note. But if we can get them here, we will, and if we cannot, we'll send the certificates to the coach and specifically to the students.
Well, and Mr. Bryant, you were mentioning the weightlifting, and, you know, we think of weightlifting as just as a male sport, but we have these females that are out there that are just as strong, if not even stronger. So that's just very awesome to
Absolutely.
see that it's both our male and our females.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, so that takes us down to Section 4, Administrative Personnel Appointments, 4.1. Appointment of Program Director for Maintenance presented by the Superintendent for approval. 4.2, Appointment of Program Director for Transportation presented by the Superintendent for approval. And then 4.3, Appointment of Program Director Exceptional Student Education, also recommended by the Superintendent for approval. Takes us to Section 5, Public Comment. Section 6, Committee and Staff Reports. 6.1, In-County Travel Paid for April 2024, presented by Ms. Perry. 6.2, Out-of-County Travel Paid for April 24, presented by Ms. Perry. And then 6.3, Quarterly Progress Report of the Sales Surtax Citizens Oversight Committee, presented by Mr. Jason Belcher, Committee Chairman. Welcome, Mr. Belcher.
Thank you, Dr. White. Thank you, Superintendent and board members. Appreciate the chance to give you a quick update on the progress of our committee. Again, we met last on May the 7th, and Ms. Kathy Yates and Jerry Toolin have taken positions that were open on the board. And my thanks to Grant Meyer for doing a great job of helping to onboard them as best as possible. The other members of the committee had served for some time, and so for most of us, the mission of what we're doing and our scope of work is somewhat intuitive, well known to each of us, but not necessarily to the new board members. So I appreciate Grant and his help bringing them on board. The function of the Oversight Committee, as you well know, is to be a liaison for the community, the citizens who are supporting most of this tax through our sales tax dollars, and how is it being spent, and are we satisfied? And I can tell you the overall sentiment of the board is very satisfied with the progress that we're seeing. We've made it a mission to make several site visits. We've even been to many of the ribbon cuttings, myself and other board members, and picture opportunities when projects have been complete. And we have a number of projects that are completing soon, these bigger projects that have been on the board for a while. Some of the cafetoriums and the multi-purpose buildings are coming online, and very pleased with the progress and with the upgrade to our facilities, which has led to somewhat of a snowball in the community of people saying, well, when are we going to get new this, new that, and other buildings, new this? And like, it's just part of the work that we're doing. It takes time. Rome was not built in a day. We're making up for somewhat not investing necessarily in new structures for some time. So as citizens, we're very happy about the way the district's doing this and the way the board's going about doing the progress. I also say that Ms. Julie Perry does a great job of keeping us informed from a financial standpoint. We've asked her several times to give us information, to dice it up for us different ways. A lot of times it's as a result of questions or feedback we get from the community asking questions. And though we have a good grasp of the numbers, sometimes they're not maybe in not presented in a particular way that gives us sort of details where we can answer most effectively. So she's been great about helping us with that. And the voluminous financial reports that she produces for us each month are very detailed, and they've been good. And I think that's helped with the coordination of the board members who are coming from the different districts, different areas within the district. And so being able to answer the questions at a more granular level have been good about that. So I always appreciate Ms. Julie's help with that. And then, of course, Joel and the staff at Jacobs Titan do a good job of keeping us updated on the project. And we've actually started reshaping the reports at the meeting so that some of the projects that are completed and falling away will take less precedence over the projects that are underway. I do probably after the summer, after we get through some of the completed larger projects that are coming to a fruition, I want to get my board members back out again making site visits in the next year, and that's something we'll do. And I still continue to probe them, and they all continue to say that they want to be able to remain. I think to a person, I've got commitments from everybody to remain at least through the duration of the first 10 years. And I'm hoping that's the case. Nobody can predict the future, but it's nice to know that the board has a strong commitment towards trying to fill our role as the citizen liaison for the district and giving our input where we can. But that is my brief report. I want to thank y'all for the good work that you're doing, and from a citizen standpoint, say we're very pleased with the progress. So thank y'all.
Mr.
Any-
Belcher, I've said
anything
it
for me?
before, and
Yeah.
I'll say it again. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Dr. White.
And
Easy,
everything that
easy
you-
job to do. Y'all make it easy on me. And keep
Well-
it that way. I want it that way. Okay, keep it that way.
We
please.
appreciate you. You're dedicated and consistent. And thank you for that.
Well, thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Thank y'all.
Thank
If
you.
there's nothing else, I'm gonna go back to the job that
I
pays
wanted to
my
say,
bills.
Mr.
Oh,
Belcher.
go ahead, Miss Linda, my buddy.
No, I'm not
This-
gonna let you go.
this is
No, go right
This is
ahead.
a
Yes,
man of
ma'am. I'm
experience.
getting ready to get out of here.
That's right.
No questions,
There's
please.
nothing else as he's walking off.
No.
Well, one, I want to say how much, I have seen you and some other members of that board at ribbon cuttings and things, and we appreciate that because we know that those members of the board are busy with their jobs and other things, but it adds a credibility on the citizen side that, board members, we're going to show all that, but with you guys showing up at that, it really makes a difference when people see you, other citizens see you out there, and how much we appreciate you doing that. I wanted to ask you, you said people say, well, when this, that, and the other. What is one or two main questions that you're receiving now out
Okay.
in the public?
Well,
Because we've been doing this a while now, and they're
Sure,
starting
yes,
to see
ma'am.
something. What do you get?
Well, I think it goes back to a little bit of how were priorities picked. So let's say they see major work being done at some of the older facilities. Well, how was that priority done? And we educate them on that the process began with each administration at each school setting priorities and then working with the district to make a list of priorities. And those have been published for some time, and we've been working through those that the district chose, and rightly so, that safety and security were the first things to be addressed, and then some of the large facility upgrades. And so we really try to redirect them to the information that's already available, that a lot of times it's a matter that they just don't understand the flow of the work and why things were picked the way they were. And I think that helps. It's some question that would originate in some way around that. Well, I'm looking at my school and I'm seeing some things being done, but when are we getting our new building, or when are we getting a new school? When are we getting a place? It's all in due time. Takes some time. I also remind them I try to remind them just of the overall cost of bringing a new structure completely out of the ground. Everything from land acquisition in what's been a very pricey environment for that sort of thing, to construction costs, materials, and that sort of thing. It makes it difficult sometimes to pin that down, but that the district's making progress on those. But it's a little bit of expectation management. It's also a little bit of just, you need to go back and review the information that's already being published by the district on its site, and I think you can see some of those priorities being met. Once they get a scope for the overall picture, I don't sense, I'm sure there's some of this, I don't sense from a lot of people that there is any sort of distress or anguish over the way that the district's going about doing the work, just sometimes wishing we had a magic wand and some pixie dust to make it happen faster. But I think once they kind of get the scope of how things were first originated and how that we've worked through methodically, how y'all worked through methodically on those list of priorities, it's better. That answers most questions. Did that help?
Yes, that was good. Thank you
It
so
wasn't
much.
not detailed like I gave you an example of questions, but they generally revolve around that.
Just wanted to know what kind of feedback
Yeah.
that you're getting. So you're not hearing anybody saying they regret that we've taken on this initiative and the
Not so
text.
far.
That's great. Thank you.
Not so far, especially when we explain to them that statistically 55% of it is paid by out-of-state people buying stuff as they travel through. That seems to be a nice little icing on the cake when they get that understanding. So,
Right.
I just wanted to share that I had two individuals that they were emailing me back and forth regarding, again, questions,
Yes, ma'am.
why type questions. So I was providing them information where they could go, different, places
Yes,
on our
ma'am.
website, dashboard, and so forth. And it finally, probably after 4 different emails, I finally added that you were our chairman and that this is the date of the next meeting.
Sure.
The comment on both of those was that, if Jason's overseeing this, we're good.
Oh, no, that's trouble right there.
Thank you so much. You
yes,
mentioned,
ma'am.
reputation, but like I said, it was just back and forth, and I'm trying to provide the information. But as soon as I gave your name and that you're the chairman, and when they were like,
Wow.
oh, no, we know Jason, and we know it's all good. So,
Well, that's,
thank you. You have
that's
an excellent
accolades I don't
reputation,
deserve,
and
but thank you, ma'am.
No, you do
Thank
deserve.
I will say this, that, and all the committee members have been this way, especially the ones who've been on from day one, who've followed the commitment that Michelle Ankers had made. Those who've been serving the longest have made themselves available to answer questions. I've sat down and had coffee with folks who had questions. And, you know, sometimes there's just some things I can't answer. I'm like, you're going to have to reach to the district about that. I can't really answer something so specific as that. But let me give you an idea of how they went about doing this and why we're pleased. That's the thing is I try to emphasize to them is that we're not a rubber stamp. Things have gone well, and so we're very happy with the things the way they've gone. If they hadn't, you'd be hearing another answer from us. You'd be getting a different view of things. But so far, things have, in our opinion, gone extremely well from an overall standpoint, and we could not be more pleased. So glad to sit down with them, had cups of coffee, had lunch with several, hoping that some of their concerns would be assuaged in some way. And I think we've done that. But it, in some sense, too, it's always tough because you start with the micro of, you know, me, my family, my area of town or my area of the district. You know, I want to see this come to pass. Okay, that's great. We want that to come to pass too. We've had to prioritize a much larger body of people to have to try to service, and that takes some time. Patience is good. I try to remind them, for all those who say they're Christians, that you're supposed to put the needs of others before the needs of your own, and sometimes that's tough to do in a public sense because you really want that to happen. Why do we still have portables here? They're necessary for a period of time, but one day, by God's grace and by the hard work of everyone here, they will not be necessary anymore. So just takes time. Didn't happen overnight. You're not going to unwind it overnight. So, okay, I've said
you.
more than I should, so I hope that
Yeah,
I'm on the
thank you.
record for
Thank you,
the.
Jeff.
Thank you, Ms. Martin.
And Mr. Belcher, while you're
Yes,
there,
sir.
I know you need to get back to work, but I just want to say just a couple of things
Yes,
based
sir.
on the questions and then just a
Yeah.
few brief comments. But I love the questions. And so if my memory serves me right, if we go back to prior to the half-cent sales tax being voted into being here in Okaloosa. So just to recap, absolutely, we had one-on-one meetings with the principals. We met with Jacobs Titan and district staff. Also, each school advisory council weighed in on the school's projects. Mr. Belcher, others, Michelle Ankers, actually went to each of the individual schools, if you remember, and to get input from the citizens as well as to what projects we would like to have at each of the schools. So there was a very specific project list that was then created, if you remember. It was about, at that time, $600 million worth of projects. And we knew that approximately $219 million would come in over that time. So there were some projects that would have to be eliminated from the school's project list. So the project list was created, but then we also had the referendum. And the referendum language also stated what the money would be spent on and only spent on what the referendum language stated. So we are about 3.5 years into this project. So think about that, 3.5 years. It seems like maybe longer, but it's been 3.5 years. You remember the last two board meetings, Mr. Meyer came forward and shared all the different projects that have occurred in our school district since the half-cent sales tax has been in inception. And he's going to give the third update for the Central County schools, which will include the Destin schools as well today. Prior to the half-cent sales tax, you remember what the project list looked like. It was very small. Now you look at what the project list looks like. Dr. Kelly goes over it when she gives us the briefings. It's very long. We remember that $219 million was going to come in. And we know each month or each quarter when Ms. Perry sends out the information, we're well over the projections. But we also know $219 million, what was anticipated with the cost of materials going up, that 219 might end up being about 245 because costs going up. But we do anticipate that will probably be well over 300 million when all is said and done. So there will come a point in time where the project list will be completed, and then there will be those additional dollars, and those
Yeah,
additional dollars
that's right.
will have to go towards what the referendum
referendum called
states
for.
specifically. And some people ask me about that, and we will not go outside of what the referendum states. And I know the citizens group would not allow us to go outside of what the referendum states.
Yes, sir.
But so much has occurred, and to have a group outside the school district be a partner in this to make sure that we're doing things that the way that we said that we would do them is very much appreciated. Just
Yeah,
thank you and the group for what you do.
Marcus. No, sir, we appreciate y'all. I'm looking at my list, and of the projects that are underway, nearly complete, or on the near horizon. This is not everything. It's 5 pages of projects. And that also doesn't really capture the scope of the projects, because the first 3 pages are cafetoriums and multipurpose buildings that cost multi-millions of dollars. So it's a wholesale change to the atmosphere of our education. I can tell you, as a business person who cares about his community, and I think I can speak for the whole committee, the Florida Chamber of Commerce is one of the only, if not the only, chamber group in the country that has a full-time economist on staff. And they have, we have for some time been tracking this, but third grade reading levels, the number of young people reading on or above the third grade reading level on schedule is a direct economic indicator for a state. And so the investment that we're making in time and effort as business people translates to a better economy for the state by supporting the education process. We know that if we can get more kids, that's just one indicator. There's many more, but that's the simplest one that you can look state by state. And the percentage of children within the state reading on grade at the third grade level is a direct indication of the economic impact that has on the state. So we very much support what's going on, and you got to have buildings, you got to have classrooms, you got to have places to meet and greet. This has to go on at facilities, and so if we're not involved with these facilities, then the chances that we're going to have a thriving economic outlook for our area is going to be pretty diminished. So we go hand in hand. So glad to help out any way we can, and we appreciate all you've done, and appreciate you, Marcus, especially on your leadership on this. It's been good so far. Keep it up. Don't let the foot off the gas. Okay.
If I could just add 2 more quick notes.
Yes,
First
ma'am.
of all, thank you, as always, for your work, no matter if it's with Rotary or with the school district or whatever. You're always just superior in everything you do. Thank you.
Thank you,
But
ma'am.
also, I know that we have good district staff that put together the 5-year
Absolutely.
facility plan that goes to the state every year, so that shows that we do have long-range planning in place for this school district and for the facility
Yeah.
needs. And also, very proud of our partnership with our TPM, our Total Project Manager Group,
Yes.
Jacobs Titan,
Yeah.
because they too keep us on track, and we do get those returns on our investment there.
Yeah.
So very grateful for all those who have a hand in everything that's being
Absolutely.
happening here with regard to sales tax and any other funds for facilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you all very much. That concludes my report. Thank you all. Have a great morning.
Bye, thank you.
Mr. Phillips.
Let him finish.
All right. All right, colleagues, so let's go ahead and go down to consent agenda now. 7.1 is approval. 7.2 is approval of the minutes of the student disciplinary hearing of May 13th, 24, and then the workshop meeting of May 13th, 2024, and minutes of the regular meeting, May 13th, 2024, all recommended by the superintendent. 7.3, appropriation of District 2 School Board Member Capital Outlay Funds to Mary Esther Elementary School for window and door tinting in the amount of $8,104.20, presented by Ms. Marty Gardner and recommended by the superintendent. 7.4, appropriation of District 3 School Board Member Capital Outlay Funds to Mary Esther Elementary School for window and door tinting in the amount of $2,921, presented by Ms. Ivanchek and recommended by the superintendent. 7.5, appropriation of District 3 School Board Member Capital Outlay Funds to Florosa Elementary School for flooring in the amount of $24,853.33, presented by Ms. Ivanchek. Then 7.6 is the budget amendment number 8, fiscal year 23-24, presented by Ms. Perry, Chief Financial Officer, and recommended by the superintendent. 7.7, monthly financial statement for April 24, presented by Ms. Perry and recommended by the superintendent. 7.8, invoices to be approved for payment, presented by Ms. Perry and recommended by the superintendent for approval. 7.9, school donations, presented by Ms. Perry and recommended by the superintendent. 7.10, payroll warrant register and accounts payable warrant register totaling $43,146,790.77. self-health insurance claims and fees totaling $2,343,221.83, and bank transfers totaling $0 for April 2024, presented by Ms. Perry and recommended by the superintendent. 7.11, renewal of check recovery agreement between the School Board of Okaloosa and Safe Check Incorporated, presented by Ms. Perry and recommended by the superintendent. 7.12, school district proposed budget from revenue share for the Dory Schlossberg Driver Education Safety Program, presented by Ms. Perry and recommended by the superintendent. 7.13, tag on bid purchase over $50,000 to train, presented by Mr. Wyndham and recommended by the superintendent. 7.14, professional service agreement number 25-01 for Nova Engineering and Environmental, presented by Mr. Wyndham and recommended by the superintendent. 7.15, sale and disposal of surplus property, presented by Mr. Bolton and recommended by the superintendent. 7.16, surplus salvage and disposal of one portable building in accordance with Florida law, presented by Mr. Bolton and recommended by the superintendent.
So we're getting rid of a portable? Are we having like a ceremony? That's a good thing, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
7.17, statewide mutual aid agreement between the school board and the state of Florida Division of Emergency Management, presented by Mr. Danny Dean, Program Director, Office of Safe Schools, and recommended by the superintendent. 7.18, contract between the School Board of Okaloosa County and Northwest Florida Ballet Incorporated for the 24-25 school year, presented by Ms. Brooke Barron, Director 1, Curriculum and Instruction, and recommended by the superintendent. 7.19, State Fire Marshal Public School Fire Safety Report System Fire Code Compliance Reports for Okaloosa County School District facilities for the 23-24 school year, presented by Danny Dean, Program Director, Safety, and recommended by the superintendent for approval.
And if I could,
Sure.
I see Mr. Patrick back there. Thank you for doing that work. I remember clearly a couple of events in my time in the district. Once when I was a teacher and I had moved a bookcase where it just looked so aesthetically appealing in my classroom, but it was against an egress wall or something, and I was told very clearly I needed to move that. It didn't matter where it looked in my building, that I was potentially causing harm to others if in the event of a fire. And then again, when I was at the district and we had a delivery of many reams of paper, and I had those stacked up in an inappropriate place. So I know that you deal with a lot of attitudes and a lot of potentially hazardous situations, so I appreciate that.
And I was wondering if he could come up, and I have a question for him. I don't know, I'm sure all the board members looked at that report that he did, 44 different facility buildings that he had to go through in the last year, make sure the fire drills were done and all of that. But I appreciate you doing that, Mr. Patrick. And also want to ask you, Dr. Kelly talked about a couple of things that she did, and so I was wondering, when you go to schools, what are the top things that happen that get us off track that you have to correct?
Well, the biggest thing is the littler things like a Sensi burner or a Glade-style plug-in. People don't realize what they can do with a fire situation. Use of home-style two-prong extension cords. That kind of thing is where our problems lie, and they're reoccurring, obviously. And most of the time, it's like, okay, we didn't know this. And, you know, most of the teachers or principals, they do comply and say, okay, we're going to correct the problem. But other than that, it's a team effort with Mr. Dean and our Office of Safe Schools, you know, to make sure that we're safe and everything. And I do get a lot of questions from the students, especially little ones, third grade up to about 6, 7, you know, the badge, is it real? Or, you know, that kind of thing. What do you actually do, you know? And then I get, during the October, I usually, the Fire Prevention Week, I do get asked to come to a couple of classrooms. But yes, our schools have that actually in my tenure, almost 4 years now as fire marshal or fire safety inspector, actually have gotten better. I've seen improvements. Almost 30 years in in maintenance side where I came from, I saw a lot of stuff that was neglected. Now it's starting to become better and better and better. And that, I think a lot of that's got to do with our half-cent sales tax where we're getting the repairs done. So I appreciate the board recognizing me.
You also go into the newly built things, right?
Yes,
Like
now,
our-
another part of my job is to make sure, especially the new stuff coming online, I have to inspect the fire suppression systems, the sprinklers, that kind of thing, make sure that they are following the review plan to make sure our fire safety alleys are in the right places, exit, stuff like that. Even though they're engineered, as they get built, something could get obscured. So yes, I do a lot of the running around for the school district to make sure our new construction remodels getting done.
And what is your relationship with all the fire marshals or whatever in each municipality? Like, Ocean City, Wright has, Crestview, all that. How does that work with you?
With me, it's sort of, as y'all know, actually, the school district themselves and the school board, we're our own district, and and I'm what they call the AHJ, which is authority having jurisdiction, and they all respect all the additional apartments out and everything. They all respect what I do, and they tend not to interject, but I do make a call, or they call me and going, hey, we're seeing this, or can you help us, or whatever. So we all have this mutual understanding and everything. And to be honest with you, we just had a little incident with the help of Mr. Dean. Well, we installed a new fire alarm system at Niceville High. Well, the new systems are voiced. Instead of hearing a squeal, they were voiced, and it was saying escape, escape, escape. So we had to get into that, and we had to call all the marshals in to actually say, hey, this is what we're doing for our district to help, because we do not want just expand our kids. We do, where we have to really go check, make sure we are in fire before we dump a school. So that was one thing we did this past year as a project to make sure that we stayed compliant with fire safety codes, and every one of the marshals understood that we just don't jump every time a fire alarm jumps off.
So I have a question for Mr. Patrick.
Yes, sir.
Regarding your authority. Of course, the CFO of the state, Jimmy Petronas, is the head
Yes.
fire marshal too.
Yes.
Do we report to his office at any, or?
Yes.
You said we were separate, but not within the state of Florida. Then we
Right.
still have to report.
I still answer to the state of fire marshal.
Yeah.
And I've had 2 conversations with the man in 4 years. But actually, we have Mr. Tate is actually a division fire marshal, and his office is actually here in Fort Walton. And me and him talk a lot about our buildings.
Right.
So
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that our chief financial officer is also the.
under the state, yes,
Yeah.
yeah, right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that takes us to 7.20, Athletic Coaching Add-on Endorsement Program for the 24 through 29 years, presented by Ms. Sharon Duron, Program Director, and recommended by the Superintendent. And then 7.21, Autism Spectrum Disorder Add-on Endorsement for the years 24 through 29, presented by Ms. Duron again, and also recommended again by the Superintendent. All right, it takes us to Section 8, Superintendent's Human Resources Recommendations. 8.1, Information Only, Employees on Administrative Leave, presented by Dr. Hale and Assistant Superintendent. 8.2, Information Only, Deferred Retirement Option Program, presented again by Dr. Hale. 8.3, Department Staffing Restructure, presented by Dr. Hale, Assistant Superintendent, and recommended by the Superintendent for approval. 8.4, Employment Separations, presented by Dr. Hale, and recommended by the Superintendent. 8.5, Personnel Recommendations, presented by Dr. Hale, and recommended by the Superintendent. 8.6, Employee Transfers, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the Superintendent. 8.7, Employee Reinstatement, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the Superintendent. 8.8, reinstatement reimbursement of sick leave due to line of duty illness, injury, medical exam, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the superintendent. And then lastly, 8.9, leave without pay, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the superintendent. For today, we'll skip discussion agenda. Takes us to section 10, construction program owners representatives business. 10.1, program status report by the board's representative to the construction program.
None
Dr.
this
Kelly?
morning, thank
All
you.
right, no report. 8.2, authorization for professional services for CMI price validation for TMP program number 6, task orders and scope modifications, presented by Dr. Smith, Program Director, Facilities Planning, and recommended by the superintendent for approval. 10.3, TPM program number 6, task order number 43, pre-GMP master plan for Okaloosa Technical College, OTC North, presented by Dr. Smith and recommended by the superintendent. 10.4, TPM program number 6, task order number 32, scope mod number 1, pre-MGP for Florosa roofing project, presented by Dr. Smith and recommended by the superintendent. All right, that takes us now to attorney's business. Mr. Attorney.
No report this morning.
Thank you, sir. Superintendent, your business, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and School Board. The last board meeting, we shared that it was the last board meeting of the school year in terms of when students would be in session. And we thanked our teachers, our educational support professionals, our administrators for the work that they do each and every day to get us to that point. Our district staff as well. And I also want to say just thank you to each of you. And you think about this year, and your role is not only what happens twice on a Monday, and I just very much appreciate it because you have conversations with district staff leading up to these meetings and just on other topics as you see fit. Also, you guys are out in the schools, you're visiting classrooms, you're talking with administrators, you're talking with teachers. You get those emails, you get those phone calls, and then we also have conversations. So, in my opinion, to run a school district, we have to have strong board members, so just appreciate what you do. And what I think I appreciate most is you guys have a heart for our teachers, our support professionals, and our administrators. And it comes across in the conversations that we have. So I just want to say thank you for that. As you know, graduation was upon us, and it has commenced as well. But I want to share with you just a few stats. And Dr. Kelly, if you don't mind, if you would pass those down. And what's coming to you, I'll get to in a second. But while that's coming, I want to say we graduated over 1,900 seniors. And we talk about in this school district, when they graduate from our schools, we want them prepared for college, the military, or the workforce. And of those 1,900 seniors graduating, they're doing just that. Many are going to college, but many are going straight into the military, and many are going straight into the workforce. And we've talked about, the preparation of what high schools will do for our students, even on the CTE side, and getting them to whether it's a trade school or straight into the workforce. So just very proud of that. You can see, or you can't see because I have it with me, but Niceville High School, 525 graduates. Fort Walton Beach, 380 graduates. Choctaw, 336 graduates. Crestview, 530 graduates. Baker, 114 graduates. Laurel Hill, 39 graduates. And all these, approximately. But then you also know that we had the graduation streamed. And we had over 7,000 total views streamed. Approximately 7,672 to be exact. And the peak live views that occurred across all graduations where they were looking at it in real time, about 1,245. So you think about that, 1,245 real time, but then with this opportunity, those who were able to go back and look at it, that was another significant, almost 6,000 going back and looking at it as well. So just very much appreciate our MIS department I know Mr. Mitchell and others making sure that this is set up, and it gives parents, it gives people in other countries the opportunity to look at this. And you can see in the other countries, the total views outside the United States. You can see at one school 65, 98, 274, 137, 51, 2,071, and then 42. So folks even outside of the U.S. are watching. So just very much appreciate all that goes into having a graduation. The schools, you know, they do a great job, but then also there's district staff that also work hard to make sure that everything goes smoothly. Saw each of you at the graduations as well, as we shook hands and took part in the graduations, so I just appreciate that. Any comments at all on graduation?
We didn't get rained out on one, and that's, and we were a little worried of the ones that were the first week with Baker and so forth, but we didn't. So there's a big check off that we didn't have to move any or change any.
Absolutely. Want to highlight two teachers. I thought this was especially nice. One, as you know, our Fort Walton Beach Hospital, they do a Thank a Teacher, and they do that each month. And the most recent one was Miss Julia Nadler. She's out at Southside Primary School, a pre-K D teacher, a second-year teacher. We went into her classroom. It was incredible. She talked about how at the start of the school year, if you would have gone into the classroom, the students would not have liked that very much at all. We went into that classroom at the end of the year. They were coming up, they were hugging, they were communicating. They have little boards where they can communicate their thoughts and their emotions as well for those who aren't able to communicate. But it was just amazing to see a class that started with, that would have been crying when folks came into a class that was hugging and smiling and celebrating folks coming in. And that teacher over there, Miss Nadler, the community that, an environment that she sets, that was absolutely spectacular. And I just thank the HCA Florida Hospital for recognizing our teachers in that way. And then we also have a teacher who is a recent publisher of a book, and I thought this was interesting. She's at Blue Water Elementary, Miss Stephanie Lafitte, and the book is My Prized Puppy. But what was, in my mind, what was pretty spectacular about it, and the reason why I'm mentioning it, because we have other teachers and folks who will write books, but she, in essence, wrote this book when she was a 5th grader. And so this has stayed with her the entire time, and she's finally now finished it and published it. So to me, what an example that it shows to our students today of what you can do at any age to do something that was in your heart and something that you set forth of. A 5th grader, in essence, writing a book that's published years later. I thought that was spectacular. As you know, we had several graduations, but I also just want, just for the board, just to mention Project Search with our partnership with the Hilton Garden Inn and the Hilton, and really working with our students with special needs. And these are students that could have graduated, but they stayed an extra year to learn marketable skills that they could then take upon graduation to different businesses. And these students, each of them, now have a job that they're going to be taking part in post-graduation, and a couple of them at the Hilton, but many in other areas as well. And then Okaloosa Up is in essence the same type of program, but it's for college students with OTC. And these students, they learned marketable skills through CTE type courses, and now they too are going into the workforce. And I just thought that was spectacular.
Mr. Chambers, can I comment on the UP program?
Yes.
Mr. Williams, I see is out there. I know he was very instrumental in getting this program going, and just to see the excitement on those students' faces as they receive their certifications and all that is just well worth the program. I mean, you can't put a price on that. It's just awesome. So thank you, Mr. Williams. I know you don't like getting all those accolades, but you definitely deserve them on this program. So.
And some of you will remember Mr. Soria, who worked in the school district. His son was there also, one of the graduates, so I think that was special. I do want to share from the curriculum standpoint. As you know, this is the time of the year where waiting on data and different things to come back from the testing. I do want to share with you that The state, at this time, has not set forth the criteria by which schools will be graded. That will come in July. So of course, and there's a lot of hard work that goes into it. It's a new assessment, of course, but our teachers have done a great job, schools have done a great job, but in terms of the end of year result and how we're gonna be graded, that's yet to be known. Right now, there's about 3 different options. Mr. Spolsky and his department listened in on a conference call. And so they will either look at option 1, which could be where it was in the past, so pre-last year, where 62% on the test would equate to an A for a school district, and then it goes down from there, and it breaks out what's a B, what's a C, what's a D, and so forth. But 62% is that minimum A mark, so that's still an option. Last year, because there were no learning gains, the criteria was different by area. High school was different. It was, I think, approximately 70%, then 68% for middle school, and approximately 62% for elementary. And don't hold me exactly to those percentages, but it was a tiered system. And then they're looking at what could be a third option, which is create a whole new scale. So any of those could be. It's supposed to go before the State Board of Education. I believe it's the last board meeting in July. So we likely won't know specifically how our schools do grade-wise until approximately August. That doesn't stop us, however. So we are looking through data that we can make sense of. Mrs. Lightbourne and her department are going through every school, and she will be meeting with each of the schools to share data, even though the schools will have looked at their data, and where we can improve, where are our success points. I too will be meeting with each individual school. I'll start my one-on-one meetings tomorrow with each of the principals to discuss next year, but also to discuss this past year's data in terms of what we know right now. But to the board, because I know you'll be wondering when will those school grades come out, but the criteria has not yet been established. And with that, I would like Mr. Meyer to come up to give the central update on where we are with all of our construction projects.
All right.
Good
Welcome, Mr.
morning.
Meyer.
Thank you, Dr. White. Thank you, Mr. Chambers, board. And I too appreciate Jason Belcher being here. He's a great asset to the district and he does a great job. So I appreciate him coming. So some of this might sound redundant because we covered this in the other 2 zones, but this is the central. A lot of the projects that we're doing in the other zones, we're also doing in the central zone. This is Niceville High School's multi-purpose building. They're coming to a close, but I'm going to kind of follow the same format, and if you have any questions, just stop me along the way, and I'll do the best I can to answer those. So, again, to Mr. Chambers' point, 3.5 years we've been into this program. We started with task order 1 in program 6 with some roofing, and then we went into our single point of entry and fencing. These are the completed projects that we've done in the central zone. So as you get to 12, those are still somewhat partial completions, so not completely done, but Lewis got a new gym floor, Lewis got some roofing, Blue Water Elementary got a new roof this past year, Destin Elementary had an emergency soffit repair. If you remember, we had a large section of the roof fall off there. District-wide, and same with the central zone, we're doing some sidewalks and striping, trying to comply with the OCR report, district stadium repairs. We had Niceville High School had some new lighting in the stadium and on their practice field, and we had Jacobs get involved with and help us with some electrical work in the stadium, and then we have some concrete throughout the schools as well that we're doing. So those are all completed. I did mention, or I did not mention Edge. That was one of the first roofs with Mary Esther at Edge. We did a large section of that school, so that really got the roofs going a couple of years ago. So here are a few pictures of our single point of entries. Edge is on the right. Ruckel and Blue Water Elementary. Those all turned out really well. If you go to Blue Water Elementary, the front of that school, along with the parking lot and the front, and there's some bigger offices in there, and that turned out amazing. So a couple pictures there. Edge, this is the roofs that we're talking about that we did in the early task order. The one on the top was prior to us completing it, and then the bottom picture on the right there, you can see that done and no issues since. So those are great to get these buildings roofs done. This was a project.
You go back one, Mr. Meyer.
Yes, sir.
If you remember the pre-half-cent sales tax, you remember that nice video that was there of the water dripping down on the secretary at the time, and of course we hate that, but still, when you look at now the roof is completely fixed, or roofs being fixed, it prohibits these type of things. So just want to mention that.
Remember that picture. Lewis, so Lewis has a lot of projects going on. This was done last summer. This is the gym floor, and if you remember that gym floor, it was rubber, and it had been there since the school's existence. So this is brightens up the gym, and they're really proud of that, and that turned out great. They have several roofs being done. They've completed that, and one is just now finishing up, but those are the different pictures of before and after Lewis Roofing. And then if you've driven by Lewis, the front is underway. This is not completed, but they anticipate this to be done before school starts this fall. So this front entry is really going to define the front entry, and this is going to looks very similar to Pryor's front, so with the brick and the canopy. This is Blue Water Elementary. Again, they got all new roofing. It was a shingle project that they got done during the school year, which creates some challenges, but the school worked with us, and we were able to get that done, and they actually did it pretty quick, but you can see the pictures there on the top right and left. This was a complete tear off, and they got a new roof, and that's been a great addition. And then there's a couple pictures of the front. We were able to do the parking lot and restripe that when we did the very front entry too. So
I have a general question about roofing, which of course I know not very much about.
sure.
But we're doing shingle roofing, right? Having that done? Have we ever looked into metal roofing?
We have. And where we can, we want to do metal. We look at the pricing, so that's a factor in it. And if there was shingles on there before, has it been replaced before? It tends to be easier if we have not done that. But if we can move to metal and afford it in the project, we do look at that.
Because in the long run, I know it'd be upfront cost is expensive, but in the long run, it would probably it'd stay there longer, right? Or-
We do have a good warranty with their shingles. It's 20 years, so metal, you don't get much more than that. But depending on the shape of the roof and what the roof is already, metal is an option, so we look at that. Yeah, it's a good question.
And Mr. Meyer, if my memory serves me correct, and sometimes it doesn't, but even specifically Blue Water, I believe, wasn't it going to be metal at first, and then we had some decisions that had to be made?
Correct. Yes, sir. So Walker and Blue Water, we had considered metal. And then it was difficult to get at the time, and the price was so much more.
Right.
And the contractors, we were, a lot more contractors are able to do shingle roofs, so we were able to use this company along with the other work that was going on. So it just made sense to do the shingles with these two schools. So.
I know, just with our home family, we were looking at a metal, and it was 4 times
Yeah,
more.
yeah. That
than
was about the same as
replacing.
this.
4
Yeah.
times more.
Yeah. So, good question.
Thank you.
All right, Blue Water. Destin Middle School, this has kind of been under the radar, but they have a task order to work on their cafeteria and expanding their dining, but they've already got the furniture. We're going to come back over the summer and do the flooring and some painting and some redesigning of that space, but the cafeteria furniture was added right at the semester break, and it turned out really good. So if you've walked through there, it's a good addition. Niceville High School obviously has the multi-purpose building going up. If you've driven by, You can see that from Highway 20, and we anticipate that to be pushing right up against the school year coming. But that's underway and getting close to being completed.
And Mr. Meyer, go back one, and then talk about also what they're going to do with the additional parking.
So, if you don't recall, there was some question of where to put this building. So the limited space on Niceville High School campus and Ruckle. So one thought that could be in the driver's ed parking lot, but it ended up in the athletic parking lot. So it's behind the baseball field here. So they've lost some parking for athletics. As you move down Palm, when you pass Niceville High School and head to Ruckle, behind Ruckle's baseball field, there's an open area where we're gonna add additional parking there. We're gonna clean up Old Coastal. We're gonna have some additional parking there. And as we go towards the Ruckle, we're gonna redo that back entry. They've had some temporary fencing up and some crushed gravel to help with the car rider line, because we had construction fencing up in this area. So we're gonna repave all of that down Palm and add additional parking to Niceville High School because of the loss where we put this building. That makes sense? Okay.
So is it not accessible from the main campus now?
It is not now because there's construction fencing,
But I
but once
mean-
that comes down, yes.
Okay,
yes,
okay,
yes.
okay.
It's
So
gonna be
I
inside.
didn't, all right, I want to make sure. that-
Sure can, yep.
And interestingly, when we did the town hall with Niceville students, that was one of their concerns was, what about parking?
Yes.
And they had some pretty creative answers too, didn't they?
They
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. I
Expensive,
believe
but
it. Yeah.
creative.
Yeah.
They want us to look into a parking garage.
Lots of concrete.
Right. All right, moving to the cafeteria buildings. Ruckle is there on the right, and you can see that they also have some new grass there next to the building itself, but that's anticipated to be done in July as well. Along with Plu, they're just about in the same position, finishing up, but both Plu and Ruckle, their cafetoriums are well underway and getting close to being completed. Questions there? We have some roofing going on at Ruckle on 3 different smaller buildings. One of them was over the kitchen area and cafeteria. You can see the picture on the right. That ended up being a bigger tear-off than we anticipated, and it's had some issues, but they've cleaned that up and got that roof going. But you never know as you start to tear off a roof, you know, what material is going to look like underneath there. But it was worse than we anticipated, but it's cleaned up now and dried in. That's,
Well, how old is Ruckle? How old is
Oh,
the
yes,
school?
60 years
and
old,
this is
so,
probably
yeah.
the first time that it's really getting
yes, sir, yeah.
the
Yeah,
love
it's-
that it needs. So,
Yes, yes. So several buildings there, along with Niceville High School. They have 3 buildings that are getting new roofs. The 500 building there and what we'd call the Title IX or the softball wrestling building, new roofs, which were needed. These are some of the projects that the maintenance department oversaw over the last 2 years. Again, I addressed this with the other zones, but not to leave out these projects that may not be half-cent sales tax. They could be 1.5, but our maintenance took charge over these, along with the over 10,000 work orders that the maintenance department does. These are just additional projects that they work with, either subcontractors or contractors that we use, and these were done. Edge actually is getting a new roof that is about to start this week. And if you also have driven by Lewis, not only are they have the front, they have new bleachers and a lighting stadium going in as well currently.
Grant, if I might, while we're here talking about maintenance, I'd just like to thank Mr. Bolton for all the decades when I was a principal. I know I see, for instance, installed bleachers. They would come out and put up portable bleachers for us. They do all those things that they currently do for you. And all of those things are so appreciated. So just thank you from a former principal for all you do and your team and your staff.
Yeah, thanks, I appreciate that. And summertime is a busy
Yeah,
time for them, so
exactly,
they have a lot going
exactly.
on to get schools ready for next year. So just wanted to point out some of those projects. What's to come? So these are task orders that Mr. Belcher said the 5 pages worth. These are underway or in design or upcoming. So the auditoriums, we've talked about that, security upgrades, phase 2. We do have PLU getting a new roof starting this summer. That is a shingle roof as well. Destin Middle still has their project going. The Destin Elementary, the task order 35, that's along with the new K-8 in Baker. I got some slides on that we'll talk about, but we also have some HVAC at Niceville High School, and then fine and performing arts and some district paving all going on or about to begin. So those are what's to come. We have some not 100% done. So I say that these could change, but up to this point, we've been working with the architect on Destin Elementary. The new building, that is the site plan where that building will go. So if you see, there's parking lot on the bottom side of this page, and then the 2-story building with the L shape going back up towards the main building on Beach. That's where that building will sit. And I have a few more pictures that will show, this is a wider angle of that property. As you're aware, we bought the property south of that campus. Right now, one of the options is to come off of Benning, that's on the left-hand side of that there, with traffic or car riders, then onto our property, go north, and then across into a staging area where the car riders the students could be dropped off. So right now, tentatively, we're looking for that. The dotted line below the parking lot, that's retention. So we need a little bit of retention as we build these parking lots. But that gives us plenty of space on that property for the future to, when we decide what to do with that. But that's where that building sits.
And Mr. Meyer, go back one. And what will that road do, or what will the impact of that road be for Destin Elementary?
So two things. The road that's north of this campus is Kelly Street. That currently gets backed up quite a ways, as Ms. Gardner is well aware. So that will alleviate some of the traffic flow on that. And then also on Beach on the right-hand side, there's 2 different options right now. We could, when we come out of that parking lot, come back on Beach, or we could circle back around and go to Bennington. So there's 2 or 3 different options what we could do, but the traffic flow off of Kelly and Beach are going to be minimized. Okay. This is just some exterior elevation pictures, looking at different directions. So
Wow, that's going to be
again,
big.
this is a large addition. It's 2 stories. It's 32 classrooms and some administrative space as well. But then here is again no colors or other designs. This is the first rendition, but this is what that would look like. It is a big building, yes. And here's
Well,
one
and you
more.
think about it being a big building, when we first started the conversation, it was about potentially creating 2 schools on one campus. We even started with a pre-K through 2 thought process, which eventually went to a 3 through 5 thought process, which is coming to be. But in essence, it is creating a second school, so to speak, on Destin Elementary site.
So,
So the bus that you have there, is that just for looks? I mean,
It
or is this
is.
going to, okay.
yes,
'cause
the buses would actually come on the south side.
I'm
So-
saying if that's going to be
Yeah,
bus drop off,
no.
I might want to
Yeah,
talk to
This would be visitor side
Okay,
right here,
gotcha.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Well, and just for informational purposes, I don't remember exactly, but Destin Elementary is a pretty big school.
Yes, sir.
I think this year they had, was it
Over
10 or
900.
11 kindergarten classes?
Yes, sir. I think it's
So
10.
there you go.
Yes, sir. Yeah, they're going to need the space. There are about 1,000 students with an additional, with the 5th grade coming back. They're going to need that space. Yes, sir.
And I know this board remembers, at the time of this being built, Destin Elementary was one of the largest elementaries in the county, and that was just pre-K through grade 4. And as you know, Destin Middle has really gone up in student population from where it is. So the other part of this project was not only to get the 3 through 5 center here, it was to bring the 5th grade, like Mr. Meyer said, back from Destin Middle, and then that also creates more capacity at Destin Middle, who continues to grow.
That's what goes around, comes around. I think Miss Gardner and I were there when the 5th grade transitioned from her school to my school. So,
That's,
So do we have about an estimated time frame when this particular project will break
Yes, sir.
ground to being completed?
yes, sir. So, several things are underway. We're working with Jacobs Tiding to get a GMP. We're looking at July for that. Ms. Perry, Mr. Horton, and myself, we're still working to get that COP. So we're looking at August. So then after August, we would be breaking ground for these, for Destin Elementary. Probably September.
And what about the new school in K through 8? We're
Sa-
going
same
same
time
time?
frame. Yes,
And
ma'am.
So like this August?
Yes.
We're going to start breaking ground?
Yes.
Okay.
And
Lot
Mr.
going
Meyer
on.
may have said it, but August 26th
We're
would
gonna
be the
open
start.
doors.
Of both of these? Wow.
And Baker.
Right.
Addition, yes. Lot going on.
Hey, do me a favor, flip back to the Niceville High School roof really quickly. And as he's flipping, I just say this as a reminder. Prior to the half-cent sales tax, we had approximately $29 million in capital. And after we spent money on our technology, after we spent money on some maintenance personnel, the safety projects that we were doing, and a couple others, we had approximately $5 to $6 million to do everything that we've been talking about today, which is why the roofs were patched, which is why air conditioning systems weren't necessarily fixed the way that we would like to fix them. That one roof, or those 3 roofs right there, cost approximately how much?
I'm not sure, but it's quite a bit.
In the millions.
Yes, sir.
So in the millions. So I remember prior to the half-cent sales tax, we had one roof that was well over $1 million. So that's, of the 5 to 6 million there, you're already cutting into $1 million plus, and that's just one school, one project. And of course, now we're able to do things so much more efficiently and effectively.
I know we have something on an agenda where we would be one part of a section of, that kind of thing that we would be approving because we couldn't afford to do the whole building. So it's great.
That's right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you betcha.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer.
Yes, sir.
Well, I just want to say that you and Mr. Belcher and Mr. Chambers, you have over the last couple of board meetings, have been sharing all the many, many projects that have taken place in 3.5 years. But we also have to remember, we were just coming off COVID in this 3.5 years.
True.
We had difficulty in getting materials and supplies, price increase. So what all has been done in 3.5 years? Adding all those different, maybe little roadblocks that's amazing. Absolutely amazing. So nice job, everybody.
That is it, sir.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you. All right, colleagues, so that now brings us down to board members' business. If you'll note, we do have an action item there, 13.2, and this is appointments to the Okaloosa County Value Adjustment Board. And Ms. Vancheck, you're currently serving in that capacity for us.
And I'd be glad to continue that.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am.
And so,
Continue to serve as alternate.
Very good, Mr. Bryan, and so in line with that, Mr. Carroll has also agreed to continue. So we'll need to formalize that tonight
Tonight.
with a motion and then a vote, okay?
okay.
Dr.
And
White,
then-
I will
yes, sir.
say that the alternate position is important because this particular year I had to fill in for Ms. Vancheck for one item, so so it was kind of cool to be able to actually be a part of that this year. But
Had to track you down on the phone.
you
too.
did. But the when we do have alternates,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
we do have a function. So and I think that's commendable for everybody that serves.
And we weren't expecting that one, and I was sitting there, but it was a situation where he had to come in, so.
Yeah, awesome. Very good. All right, so then that takes us back to 13.1, board members' announcements and business. And so, Ms. Gardner, I'll start with you, ma'am.
I'm going to use my time tonight. I
Okay.
sat and typed out all my notes, and I've got a lot of dates,
Oh,
and then
okay.
walked right out and left it sitting in the printer. So
Well,
let
it'll be there when you
me do
get
it
them.
tonight so I
Okay.
don't mess up some of the
Yes, ma'am.
dates.
Okay, that'll be fine. Ms. Vancheck?
Well, of course, I've had the Women's Club and several things today, but another thing when we talk about our, doing our schools is, like, for example, the other day at Pryor Middle School, going over there and seeing the renovation of their media center. Older school, but you go in there and you see this that looks like, more like a like a student center, like you might even see on a college campus. It's just beautiful, and I know that that's so important, that environment for those students, to be able to go in there and to hear from those students. So it's not only the big projects like building new buildings, but being able to renovate those things that I'm so grateful that we're getting to do to improve the environment for our students. And again, just to say, it was great going through all the awards and all the ceremonies that we had at the end of the year. It kept us hopping. I'm sure we were probably passing each other through different channels, but it's so exciting to see those. I got to see the fifth graders move up. I got to see the seniors graduate. And then I know tomorrow, I believe it is, we're going to recognize our retirees in our district who have given many years to our district. So that's going to be great to be able to recognize them this week. And so I'm eager to be able to congratulate them. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Bryant?
Thank you, Dr. White. And Mr. Chambers, I would just like to comment on your what you said about the relationship that you have with the school board. And I personally would like to say thank you, and I know I can probably speak for my board members about the relationship that we have with you. Like everybody knows, I represent our district with the Florida School Boards Association, and I hear how board members and superintendents and staff do not have any type of communication. It's makes the meetings to be interesting, and when we get a chance to talk about our situation, I'm really thankful that we have a great relationship with you. You allow us to have a great relationship with your staff, and that brings to the meetings how you see we come up here and we're able to do the school board's business, which is what these meetings are all about. So with that being said, Mr. Horton, I know your time is coming to an end, and you're probably going to be glad that you don't have to answer my phone calls anymore or anything like that regarding things. But I do want to say thank you for having that relationship to where, if anything comes up, I was able to go to Mr. Horton. And Mr. Grant, I didn't want to put you on the spot while you're up here. I'll put you on the spot while you're sitting back there. I know on Friday he was probably like, oh my gosh, Mr. Bryant is just loading me up with emails. But I will just say that having that relationship with staff and talking to Mr. Grant, it's a great communication process that we can get things done, because we are here to better our students, better our schools. And I just think, saying what people need to know is that what you might not see here on the dais, there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes that as school board members, what we do, and having that open line of communication. So thank you, Mr. Chambers, to all of your staff members and all the schools that we visit, for letting us be a part of that team. And on another note, we talk about all these things that we went to, all the functions that we went to, and all the data that is here. I kind of did some data on how many handshakes that most of us probably did, and I kind of estimated about 2,700 handshakes for all these big events that we went to. So it's, we think about all these events that we go to and how many students are actually being awarded, and we get to do the handshakes. But I will tell you, Friday night, Crestview High School, it was probably about 8:30, and that young man came across the stage, had the last name with Z. I think that was the loudest cheer of the entire session, because he was the finality. He was the final one for the school year. And, we are just so proud of all of our graduates, all of our schools, for everything that they've done. It's been a good school year, and can't wait to see what happens next year. So, thank you, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Or Dr.
Yes, sir.
White.
Yes, sir. Dr. Kelly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, we mentioned graduation, and you asked us what our thoughts were. I just happen to think that, across our big high schools, and as you alluded to, Mr. Bryant, we have typically around 500 graduates at our big high schools, and everything was so orchestrated so well and with such finesse. I didn't see a single hiccup Nobody was out of line, nobody was ill-dressed, everything just went off according to plan. And as Ms. Ivanchik said, even the weather held out, so everything just went off so well. So I couldn't be more proud of that having happened. Some of these announcements I'm going to have to read because I don't want to mess up a student's name. So congratulations to Elena Perkins from Niceville. She broke a state record in her warm-up for 4A state javelin event. And even though that might have been unofficial, the officials on site were impressed that. And she actually threw 45 meters there, and then she cleared 146 feet and 2 inches on her first throw. And so, of course, as you saw, that led Niceville's girls track and field to 3rd place in the state. So congratulations to that team. Niceville High School men's track team are the state champs, and they secured their 4th consecutive Florida 4A state championship there. And you've heard me talk about this athlete before, but it's so amazing. Niceville High School athlete Abby Gunter is now a double gold medalist in both shot put and the 100 meter. And then congratulations to these STEM students on winning history projects. Caden Crawley for her first place performance centering on Walt Disney, and to Jalen Contento and Austin Gritter, who placed 2nd for a group exhibit on the Transcontinental Railway, and Jaden Ellis and Ashlyn Nolan placed 3rd for their group website on Jesse Owens. Congratulations also goes out to their STEM history teacher, Mr. Andrew Adams, for inspiring those students. And then also a reminder that we do have our summer feeding program going on at certain school sites this summer for students who are 18 and under, and you can see our OCSD website for complete information on those sites where school summer feeding programs are available. And other than that, just have a safe and relaxing summer. That's all,
All right.
Mr. Chair.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Kelly. All right, colleagues, well, that'll take us down to Section 14, public comment. It'll be the yellow card version for non-business items. And then brings us to adjournment. But before that, is there anything else that we need to cover at this time, colleagues? Okay, staff, association, business? Okay, all right, this workshop is adjourned.